Thank you very much, and welcome to our second January meeting of January 28th, 2025. We got a full house in the gallery tonight. It's nice to see. That brings back memories. Oh, here we go again. Just if we can be patient. Is it? Are you sure? So I don't think I'll repeat. So again, welcome, and we will call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk. 6:01.
Be it resolved that this regular meeting now open at 6:01 p.m. moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, second by Councillor McDonald.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Is there any opening remarks from members? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Densham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick heads up to any small businesses in the area. The regional incentive program at the county level is open. It closes February 24th. If you have a project, any form of beautification or improvement to your property, there is funding available. It's usually a 50% up to a certain limit. But get your applications in quickly because, like I say, it closes end of February. I know a lot of small businesses in North Stormont have benefited from this in the past, and I'd love to see more happen this year as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any further comments? Seeing none, moving on to the adoption of the agenda.
Be it resolved that the agenda be approved as presented, moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Deputy Mayor Densham.
Any questions or comments on the thing? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof? Seeing none, moving on to our public meeting. Item 5.1, which is the plan of subdivision for SD&G file number 01-NS-S-2024 and a zoning amendment of Z-2025-01 for the Blanchard subdivision. Madam Clerk.
So through the mayor, we have no resolution. We're just
Receiving?
Yeah, we'll have the presentation.
Perfect. So I would like to welcome Blanchard. I believe Monsieur Lafleur is here. Are you going to be the one presenting, or Megan has to do her thing first? I'll have Megan and Anmol please join us. Something. Megan, is this something you're following a point or?
Yeah, I'm following the PowerPoint, but I can kind of give an initial introduction waiting on that's kind of just informative. So we can kind of go through the first couple of slides. I'm Megan Benoit. I'm from the United Counties of SDNG. The meeting tonight is twofold: the application of division that was submitted to our office, as well as a zoning bylaw application that was submitted simultaneous to the Township of North Stormont. So tonight is just going to be a brief overview. I'm going to mainly speak on the planning process when it comes to SDG, as we are the approval authority. Anne-Marie is going to speak on behalf of the zoning application that you received. And then Francois from EVB is going to talk more specifically about the actual proposal itself for the subdivision. There we go. All right, so once again, this is a public meeting in regards to plan of subdivision received by the United Counties of SDNG, as well as the zoning bylaw amendment application received by the Township of North Stormont. In regards to the zoning bylaw, this meeting is being held under Section 34 of the Planning Act. Any request to be notified can be made to the Township Clerk at the email address above, planning@northstormont.ca. In regards to the subdivision application, this meeting is being held in regards to county resolution. So about roughly 2 years ago, the Planning Act changed and the requirement to hold a public meeting and advise the public as well as council of the plan of subdivision was removed. County council put into a resolution to still put forward that we hold these meetings so that we can be transparent. The public has the information, council has the information. It's an opportunity to ask questions or bring light that local landowners may know that we may not. If there's a request for any sort of information in regards to the plan of subdivision, you can make it to the address on the bottom of the screen, which is planning@sdgcounties.ca. Sorry. So I briefly went over this. This is just kind of what tonight is about. The presentation will be an opportunity for comments and questions from the public and council. We'll open that up at the end after Francois goes from EVB. And a really important takeaway is that no decisions are being made tonight. This is just informative for council and the public. So it's not like you guys are making a decision to support the subdivision or anything like that. That's not happening tonight. So notice of the public meeting was sent to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject property. That was sent by first class mail. It was sent before the postal strike.
Oh,
After the postal strike. So everything was in, hopefully everyone received it. Notice was also posted on a sign at the property location in Chrysler, as well as on the township website. Under the Planning Act, in regards to the plan of subdivision, we are required to also circulate a list of agencies that are developed under the Planning Act, and that was done as well at the beginning of December.
For appeal rights for the zoning bylaw amendment, any person or public body who would like to appeal needs to either make an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission before the bylaw is passed.
In regards to appeal rights for the subdivision. So similar to the requirement to host a public meeting, appeal rights after that instance were also removed. So a limited number of people can only appeal the approval authority in regards to the plan of subdivision. So there's a brief list of agencies there, which is essentially the applicant, the township, the minister, and then a list of specified agencies that can be found on the Planning Act. So essentially agencies that we circulate for comments that would be directly involved with the subdivision. So the United Counties is the approval authority to approve or refuse the proposed plan of subdivision. Following tonight's public meeting, we will take in all the comments received by council, as well as the agencies that we've circulated with and the comments that have been brought forward. And that will help the approval authority to be able to make a decision in regards to either approve or refuse or ask for any sort of amendments to the actual plan. If approved, conditions are drafted to address development requirements as well as items raised through public and agency consultation. These typically include a subdivision agreement in regards to stormwater management, curbing, things like that. So this is the site location located in Chrysler, just north of the river. View images. So under the county's official plan, the property is currently designated urban settlement area and also residential district, which means that this area is plotted for future development within the settlement area of Chrysler. So along with that, these are just kind of a highlight level of uses that are available to be used within the urban settlement area. So residential, commercial, and industrial, very similar to rural settlement areas, just higher density in regards to residential and higher classes of industrial and different types of uses for commercial when we're in an urban area. So the current zoning, the subject parcel is currently zoned R1, R4, and agricultural under the township's current zoning bylaw. And you can kind of see it's highlighted there. Green is agricultural. R1, I feel like, is the lighter color, and like the more olivey color is the R4.
And this is the map that we've received for the proposed zoning of the land. It'll be, if you want to go to the next slide, right? Thank you. So the proposed zoning is residential first density special exception. We put XX as of right now. We'll give them a number once the bylaw is put in place, so it's more recent. And there's a holding on all of the zones for when the subdivision agreement gets signed. So the residential first density will have a special site-specific provision, which will be maximum lot coverage shall be 50%. Residential second density will have a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.2 meters and a maximum lot coverage of 50%. Residential third density will have a minimum interior side yard setback of 2 meters, a minimum exterior yard setback of 4.5 meters, a maximum lot coverage of 50%, and a minimum landscaped open space of 25%. And the residential fourth density will have minimum interior side yard of 2 meters, minimum rear yard at 6 meters, minimum front yard at 6 meters, and maximum lot frontage at 27 meters.
So this is currently the draft plan subdivision that we received at our office when the application was submitted. I know it's a little far away, so it's hard to see, but I'll kind of go through what they're initially proposing. And once again, Francois will kind of go a little bit more in depth with what types of units they're going to be using. So it's a 45 lot residential subdivision. It's 50 lots, blocks in total. So 1 through 45 are planned to be residential lots. 46 through 48 are transfers to Genie Reno. They're kind of half blocks that kind of more coincide with their current subdivision that they've applied for. 49 is the current stormwater management pond that will be transferred to the township upon development. And 50 is the block, kind of the larger block along the bottom, kind of with all the little dots in it. And that's currently just, it's been put forward to just remain as agricultural uses. That's how it's being used today. Within the urban settlement area of Chrysler, all of these lots will be fully serviced with municipal water and sewer. And it is a mix of single detached, semi-detached, in townhomes, and they are proposing 2 apartment blocks as well. And there will be 1 new interior road network that will link up with the current development that's going on there as well. Sorry, thank you. So like I said at the beginning of the presentation, we are required to circulate the application for a plan of subdivision to a required list of agencies. Some of them being SNC, Canada Post, the school board, Hydro, Bell, Enbridge, any sort of utility, hydro. To date, we have received probably like 5 to 6 comments back. Most of them are just commentary for our information. There's no standard requirements for the draft plan conditions. These are the ones that we've received, which would have conditions on the draft plan. So Canada Post is just recommending, this is very standard, that this development will be serviced through centralized mailboxes, so community mailboxes. The site I don't believe is determined yet, but that will kind of be done through site plan once we get to that stage. South Nason Conservation, that this is it's not worded this way, but this is something that would be worded on the draft plan approval conditions if approved. So that they be provided with a final stormwater management report, detailed lot grading and drainage plan, servicing plan, sediment and erosion control plan, and final slope stability assessment. Acknowledgements and necessary permitting under the Conservation Authorities Act would also be required. And then minor adjustments to the draft plan to show that the 1 in 100 year flood elevation and that the elevation of some of the lots are adjusted to be located outside of the current hazard lands. So to date, combined between the township in regards to the zoning amendment application as well as the subdivision application, as of January 21st, no public comments have been received via email at the township office here at the county office. So as of right now, this is kind of, other than the notice that would have received, the next opportunity for kind of comment. And that's questions, but I'll kind of have Francois go and then we'll open questions once everyone's done presenting.
Perfect. I think that makes sense. So Francois, if you want to join us and enlighten us on your engineering.
Sure. All right, thank you, everyone. My name is Francois Lafleur. I'm with DVB Engineering. So we've been helping Mr. Blanchard with the draft plan application. As you know, we've also worked on the neighboring subdivision, so we have some history there. Get going. This first slide is just to show the relation, like where the site is located in relation to the greater Chrysler area. So it's the orange property. Over. Okay, maybe not working. And then the G&E property that was approved, that was the property up above. Over here, we have our draft plan with the densities that are proposed. So we have the single detached dwellings will be in the blue. The semi-detached dwellings are in the orange. The townhomes are in the yellow. So we have 4 townhome blocks of 4 units each. And the higher density or apartment blocks are in the purple, with the blocks 49 and 50 are going to remain as undeveloped. When the larger one is for agricultural purposes, as was said, and block 49 is the stormwater management pond that will be transferred over to the township. Here's our kind of tentative phasing approach for the project, because of how the lay of the land and all that. Like, we are planning on starting at the downstream end and kind of working our way up. So that would mean that phase 1 would be at the eastern side of the property and would consist of approximately 20 single detached dwellings. And then we would do phase 2, another 20-ish units. And then we'd end with phase 3, which is slightly more units, but just how it kind of breaks apart. It's hard to get a perfect a number of units for each phase. And just like, obviously, if there's more demand, there's less demand, like we could be adjusting the phase extents as need be. Just, it's always kind of like a question as to how the project is going to be phased. So in terms of the more engineering side of things, for the cross section, so we are proposing to use the same cross section as was used for the neighboring subdivision. Again, just to ensure continuity, and it doesn't make sense to go to different cross section. And same street lights as well. Just to get it, like, even though it's 2 different developers, like, we are wanting to have a more unified look. And as was mentioned, full services will be provided, underground electrical as well. Yeah, good stuff. One thing, our infamous curb from our last project. So there was another curb type that was used. So here we're kind of opening it up to council or to township staff. We're kind of, it doesn't matter either way to us which way we go. And we're looking for direction, whether we want to go to the OPSD style curb or the City of Ottawa, as was used for phase 1. So it is possible to transition between the 2 types, and it can be done without like, it's not going to like stand out too much, I don't think. So if that's the direction of council, we could go with that direction, or if we just kind of want to stay with the previous curb style. I assume that's something that would be captured under a draft plan condition or similar. In terms of studies and reports, I'm just going to go over briefly our studies and reports that we had completed to support the project. So there was a stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment that was done. And the big trigger for that was proximity to the cemetery, just to the south of the land. And there was nothing of significant resource found, so no further work is required, so we checked that box. For a geotechnical investigation, that was completed as well, and there's nothing too abnormal there, nothing that can't work around. There is some bedrock in some areas, but at the south end of the project, we're probably okay. In terms of slope stability, so there was a comment made by South Nation on that. So there was a slope stability study undertaken. It's for the lands that abut the South Nation River. And there was a slope, you can see it here. I don't think my battery's low. There's a limit of hazard land setback that kind of like cuts across the rear of the lots. And I do think that's what one of the comments from South Nation Conservation kind of talk about. That line does not extend into our building footprints, but it does extend into our lots. But if we were to reduce our lots, make them shallower, then it would impact our building footprint area. So we would obviously prefer to keep our lots as is. And yeah. There was a traffic impact study done as well. And that was for the this development and for the neighboring development. So it looked at, and the way it works is it's called the level of service. So it's how longer or how much you have to wait at an intersection before you can make a movement. And it ranges from level of service A, you're pretty much can go without too much waiting, and up to a level of service F, which you're waiting over 50 seconds for. And the okay. So all the adjacent intersections to the property were evaluated, and there is obviously an increase in delay just from the added traffic from the subdivision, but it's reasonable in the sense that it's increasing from like a 10-second delay, 10.6 to 10.9 to like 15 seconds and 17 seconds. So it's, if we were into like a level of service F or E or something like that, that's when you start needing like special things like left turn lanes into the site, or there may be a point where you need traffic lights or something like that. And this was like they looked at the entire development of the Blanchard property and the currently approved draft plan for the GNE Reno property as well. And they also looked 5 years after construction, because there's always like an increase in background traffic as well. From like, say, if there's other subdivisions that are happening in town or other like infill development, that sort of thing. And I think that's the last one. There was an environmental impact study, and there was nothing, there was no butternut on tree on site. In terms of, there's recommendations made with regards to vegetation clearing. There's not much vegetation on site because it's actively used as a agricultural land. There's exclusion fencing that's recommended for, I think it's turtles. I don't say on there, but I think that's what it is. And there's no, it could proceed without significant negative impacts on natural features. And there was a planning justification done as well, just to review compliance with the provincial policy statement and with the official plan, the SDG official plan. And that was done because it was already, like, as was mentioned, it's already in the official plan as urban settlement area. We just did a quick review internally on that. And yeah, we are seeking rezoning as well. I'm not going to go over, that was already covered by the other presentation, so I'm not going to repeat that. This is all the same information as was provided in the previous presentation, just different bit of formatting. Same thing for the R4s and the agricultural block. And last but not least, so we did the servicing and stormwater management report for the neighboring subdivision. And we included like all of the Blanchard property as well, just to make sure that, you know, we're designing our pipes to accommodate the future flow from that subdivision. So that was all done, and there's no issues there. The pond was also sized to accommodate the extra runoff from the Blanchard subdivision. So yeah, should all work pretty well. And then same for the pump station, the new sanitary pumping station that was also sized accordingly. And that's it for me.
Good. So we're just accepting the report. There's no resolution being passed tonight. I will take questions from member of council, and then also the public will get an opportunity if you wish to ask a question, just state your name, address, and hopefully we have the right people to have some answers. So before I go to council, I just got two real quick one. In regards to your phasing, are we looking at only doing, let's say if we do phase one, which will be at the tail end, at the east end of the property, are they only going to service up to phase one and then jump into phase two? Or would they push it further because of just the logistic of a small road and having the loop to get in and out?
Yeah, I think it would make sense to just service. Usually what we do is we kind of service a bit beyond the phase one extents, just enough so that when you're digging in the future, you're not impacting the previously built homes and the road and all that. And we would always, like, usually we would do like a gravel turnaround as well.
So my reason for asking, if you're only doing phase one, the unfortunate part is it's all R1 that's down at the beginning. So I find to have multiple density is sometimes, because you might get sales and somebody looking for a townhouse, other ones want a semi-detached, and so you would be restricted to R1s, then you would fall into a little bit, so the R4 would be left at the end, at the tail end. So anyway, just a comment in regards to that. And second question in regards to the curbs. All I expect or appreciate if we can work together, have the communication, and not wait till the 11th hour and where it becomes an issue which kind of ties up council's hands. So if it can be discussed, we're well aware, but let's have our staff, council, and making sure we work together and get a compromise on that front. So I will take questions from council, starting with Councillor McDonald.
I have a few. How are lot sales going for Countryside?
I know there's a few homes that are up, that are under construction right now. And as for, to be honest, I'm not too sure. All I hear is, yeah, there's interest, and they're plowing ahead with construction of the homes. Yeah, that's
good. I was just wondering, because I know some parts of the province things are slowing down, but it's nice to see that, you know, houses actually going up, and I'm just hoping that lot sales are still good. And then as we're looking at that total build out of all three sections, just keeping a finger on the pulse from your perspective as builders and as developers, how it's going. Is there a need for sump pumps for these properties?
No,
that you're aware of?
the storm is deep enough that could be serviced. So what we did for the neighboring subdivision is we had requirements for backflow preventers, and we're able to do it by gravity, which is good. It's great.
As a neighbor with a sump pump, it's
Yeah.
kind of a pain in the butt. So it's nice that you're able to achieve that through the engineering. So that's awesome. On the curbs, I think previous advice from our staff and our experts were that it be the most accessible curb that's available. So I agree with our mayor that whatever the staff feel is best, but obviously that accessibility be part of the consideration, and that we do value that, obviously. I saw the stormwater pond is partially on, it's sort of split. It's on the Blanchard plan.
No, I think that was already transferred, or is in the process of being transferred. If maybe you would know
It's already been dug and
Okay.
everything.
No, I mean, the transfer of the land.
Yo, it's not, but it's easy to, but it's not transferred yet.
Okay,
I can add, it was done by reference plan. So
okay, yeah,
what they did is it's being an individual transfer, so
Okay.
I think that part's taken care of.
Is it a wet pond, like a permanently wet pond?
I think so. I think it was done as a wetlands, which has some water in it.
For the third phase, so not Blanchard, not Countryside, whatever the future north portion, will that have a separate stormwater management plan, or was it sized to tie all into one?
Everything into the one facility.
That's awesome. How much, so the lots that you wanted to adjust, was that due to the floodplain hazard or the slope stability hazard, or that you don't want to adjust, but that were requested to be adjusted?
Yes, it's due to the slope stability setback. And I'll show you on here. Oh, there it is. And this line has like, there's some buffer in that line already. And so essentially they've gone like 14 meters from the,
Actual top of slope?
yes, and they're saying, well, don't construct within that setback. And what's going on is that line like traverses over or extends into our lots, even though there's not any like buildable space back there.
I was just curious because it said top of valley slope and it seemed to be pointing to the same line that says limit of hazard land setback. So I wasn't sure, was that the top of slope or was it the edge of that sort of 14-meter regulated area that you were talking about? I assume it's the 14-meter regulated setback that you were talking about, just the way it's labeled there, top of valley slope. It was hard to tell. Because obviously if it's just within that regulated area, it's a little different than if it's in the hazard, so.
It's a good question, and I'd have to go through the original report to really answer properly.
Promise there's only a couple more. I see you looking at me. I see you. The thing, if it's in the regulated area, if someone wanted to put a little pool or something, they might need permits and that can get annoying. And also for the building department to keep track of triggering those permits, if there's a way to keep it out of requiring future landowners to have to interact with more sort of regulation, it's better. But I understand you're trying to preserve lot area too. So it's a balance. I understand that. The last thing is just on I understand it's currently zoned for ag in that area and is currently being farmed, and that, as this is phased in, that, houses don't go up right away, but being that land is within the urban settlement area, it does seem like that would be a fairly incompatible land use with the proposed, not only just density, but with residential use. The other concern that I have, and I think not concern, but opportunity I see, is there's not a lot of park space that was provided in Countryside. We chose to defer that to future phases. And I really do hope that we can provide access to some of the people who want to live in this area, that they could have some access to the river and have interaction with the river. So I understand that may be future discussions and thoughts for the landowners and developers, but it would be really nice. And I've been out there and walked around, and it's a beautiful little spot. There's a lot of people like to go fishing there, kayaking. Really great opportunity for us to get our residents to the water. So I hope in the future that that's something that can be sorted out. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. For those you don't know, Allison's a planner, so maybe you can. I'll go with Deputy Mayor Denchon.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, great project. I agree with your comments around the potential for waterfront, enjoyment of the waterfront. I think that's great. Going back to this slide where we're looking at the limits there and the slope. What's intended for the back end of the properties? Is there a plan to put any kind of fencing behind that? Where I'm headed with that is that sometimes when a person's property, especially when it's close to water, isn't specifically delineated, people tend to start to build sheds going down and down closer to the water, and that clearly will be in a flood hazard area as well. So what's the plan for the back of the properties?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if it remains as farmland, that would kind of solve that issue. People would not be building sheds onto actively farmed land, or otherwise the owner would not be too happy there. But Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of speculating. I think some people would want to not put fences back there just to have that view.
Chain link would do it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But if it has become parkland, then, you know, maybe that
Yes.
triggers the need for more of a solid fence or something like that. Yeah, it's
Okay, I'll leave it as a comment at this point then, just for thinking of. And when you were talking about the traffic, and the potential for, the traffic score, you said a nearby intersection. I just wanted to confirm that nearby intersection that you were referring to is actually the one that, intersects onto County Road 12 versus the intersection that's kind of, on the subdivision roads, just before County Road 12.
Yes, and I kind of I'm not cherry picked the data, but the data that it is in my slide here is the worst one. So like Lost Street and County Road 12 has the longest delay.
Okay.
So the other nearby intersections were looked at as well, and those have less of a delay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any further, Councillor Bajelli?
Yeah, just one question about, and for phase 3, the R4 blocks. Has there been any kind of original kind of thoughts or plans to how large these are going to be, or what the maximum kind of units they can cap out at?
Yeah, we did a quick review on the plan just based on size of the lot. And I like this township zoning bylaw says you can do so many units per square meter of lot area. It came up to, I think it was around 30 lots or so, or 30 units in there. Not to say that we're going to do 30 units. It could be less. It could be more with a zoning exception or something. But I guess the short answer is we're not too sure yet. We haven't done any kind of conceptual planning for that just yet. And yeah.
Good. Seeing no further any questions from members of the public? Mr. Mason, if you could state your name and address, please.
Robert Mason, Chrysler. Jay. I just have a question about you were consulting to a number of organizations I saw. I don't know whether I saw the school.
I can answer that. So the school boards are required agencies listed under the plan. So we circulate their head offices, the school board directly. And then a lot of the times we'll get like an automated, not often do they actually respond in regards to providing comments or the capacity of the school. So for this one specifically, we have not yet received comments back from the school board. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but they all, English and Catholic and public school boards will all circulate.
Maybe I would just make a quick comment then, because the only school really that's resident in Chrysler is the separate school, the French Catholic school. And we hadn't thought of it when we built when the first subdivision was put in. But if I walk down 4th Street, around school time, there's an endless number of cars that keep coming there to drop off the kids for the daycare as well. So while we talk about traffic plan, and no doubt it's further north, maybe we should be thinking about what the traffic might be around the school, and I would say whether that school is capable of handling it. And of course, we have no English elementary school miles around as far as I can see. So I would hope then that the school board would maybe put on their thinking caps on this one, because that school is particularly overwhelmed, I would say now, with not only traffic but kids. I mean, these subdivisions are baby factories. And I can tell you because I live in a baby factory area. And that's where they go.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Madeleine Gourde, 6 rue Charles. J'aimerais savoir c'est quoi le rapport. On l'a marqué comme développement d'appartement.
Quand tu dis à côté, tu parles-tu le R4?
On est la dernière maison.
On est la dernière, ensuite c'est le cimetière.
Oui.
Entre ça, c'est...
Comme c'est là, il y a un bloc, fait que je pense qu'il n'y a pas rien. Peut-être, Sylvain, si tu veux.
il n'y avait pas d'autre moyen dans ce point-là de faire des maisons. J'aurais bien aimé mieux faire des maisons. Et le bloc, la manière qui est faite, donc, pour faire des maisons, fait que on va faire un bloc et on n'a aucun plan encore. Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? Ça dépend, ça va être plus tard dans la troisième phase, mais je peux pas faire des maisons. Si on peut faire des maisons, ben moi, les blocs, je sais pas, il y en a, il n'y avait aucun moyen de faire une chose.
C'est donc le gros bloc en arrière, puis là, il n'y a pas de plan fait.
Il n'y a rien en fait. On n'est pas non plus. Moi, je suis pas un gars qui fait des blocs, mais c'est la seule chose qu'on peut faire. Avec ça, on l'a laissé comme ça, si on veut trouver d'autres qu'on peut faire autrement.
Puis juste pour ajouter, je pense que quand quelqu'un, tu bâtis un plan, c'est que tu veux avoir différents multiples de densités. Fait qu'avoir des maisons, avoir des semis, avoir des townhouses, le AR4. Fait que je pense que ça couvre beaucoup, mais comme Sylvain mentionne, beaucoup de temps, c'est que tu ne sais pas encore c'est quoi qui s'en va là. Fait que on met une désignation, puis potentiel, peut-être qu'il pourrait avoir un développeur ou un builder qui va montrer d'intérêt, mais comme c'est là, il n'y a pas rien de. Any further question? See none?
What's the plan? Yeah. Here's appetite for the township, maybe get a hold of it, is the entrance to it actually well positioned enough to handle traffic? That's my question right now.
I'll just maybe clarify. So when you say the ag line, are you talking about?
It's just- About 20 feet wide,
Between the 16 and 17?
that would be the only access to that.
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm not sure what the width is on that.
I'm just thinking, one, logistics, and two, for further down the road, if there's an appetite for the township to actually purchase such land. Is it actually well enough located for us to do something?
My only view is it would not be utilized for vehicle, like it'd be more of a pathway to access, which
So
would be
no parking lot
part.
for both lots or that.
It goes out the flood zone.
Which we can still put a parking lot in the. Correct.
I don't know, but again, that will be so. So if Councillor McDonald want to add your comment?
Generally, it's recommended, at least in the planning stages, that a floodplain area would be used like passive recreational is what they'd call it. So maybe paths, maybe something like a gazebo, but something very passive that could, you don't want to.
What the extent? Can we push it to a dock? Can we push it to a baseball line?
And South Nation does issue permits for docks for sure, and most docks are in a floodplain, right? Because they're on water, so most marine type facilities, they have to be located in areas that flood. So things that are like marine in nature. So yes, you could probably get a permit for a dock. There might be special requirements how you affix it so it doesn't get torn away in high water, but it is something that's possible. But generally, if you're planning for a recreational space that's in a floodplain, you try to make it as limited financial investment as you can, because you just don't want to be putting taxpayer dollars into something that might wash away or wear down over time. You need to talk to engineers on that kind of stuff, because it depends like what kind of water is coming through there, how fast, how much, how often. So
I guess it's a question, right? What are your flood, or is it the 50-year flood in that scenario?
this mapping is for a 100-year floodplain, yeah.
What's not?
1% chance every year the engineers would correct
Yep.
you. I'll do it for you. Francois, but yeah,
That's right.
it's essentially it's very similar. Yeah.
That's a more flood though, isn't it? Like you could
Go ahead, yeah.
The traffic study, you said it was studied for Canada 12, you lost it. Any appetite on doing that study on session 11 and 10-11?
Yeah, some other intersections were looked at as well, but I don't think they went that far.
My concern is there's a problem sightline on 10-11, especially at nighttime, 4:30 traffic coming through. We're adding all these houses in it. how do we do speed limits? They're clearly gonna work because it's at 60 at that point. What do we do to rectify that?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of falls outside, that's like, it's an existing problem that would have to be kind of tackled on, I guess it's the counties, because it's a county road, intersecting a county road, it'd probably have to be the counties tackling that issue. And yeah, because it's an existing issue, we're not improving it. But it would have to be them kind of taking the lead on that.
So we haven't received their review of the studies that have been submitted on behalf of Mr. Lesher, for DBB, everything else that's been filed, so they have all this information, but we just haven't received their comments. So if there's a reduction in speed or site triangles or things like that that are going to be addressed. Unfortunately, at state, we just don't know, but if you want those comments when they're available, we can always provide them to you.
Thank you. So any last further questions? Seeing none. So if there is anything that surfaces, I guess, would both agencies, it's one regarding zoning would be Anmol and regarding subdivision would be the counties and Megan. So if there is further, you can always reach out to the municipality or the counties to get further information. So I appreciate Francois, Megan for being here, and we will move on. I think that the Broomball kids have a practice coming up, so we will move forward. If some of you are here for the subdivision presentation, you're more than welcome to join us as we carry forward with the meeting. So moving on to adoption of minutes of our previous meeting, Madam Clerk.
Be it resolved that the following minutes be approved as presented. Special meeting, 8th of January, 2025. Regular meeting, 14th of January, 2025. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Bajelli.
Any questions or comments in regards to our meeting? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Mark, okay, if you guys want to follow, there's some chairs available if you want to sit down. Moving on to the adoption of minutes of our committees and local boards.
The Council of the Township of North Stormont accept the minutes of the November 28th, 2024 from the Raisin Region Conservation Authority Board of Directors Committee meeting and the board highlights of January 9th, 2025 for information purposes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to our board? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to our monthly staff reports and recommendations, starting with 9.1, a request for free ice time.
The Council of the Township of North Stormont approves a reduced ice time rate of $100 per hour to the national broomball teams named the Warriors and East Thunder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor Bajelli.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Bajelli.
I think it's seeing the whole room gathered. I'm like, okay, this is getting some heavy stuff here, but we all had a chance to look at that. And first and foremost, congratulations to all of you, and then best of luck moving forward. It's always great. I'm a big fan of youth sports, anyways, and but seeing this come across, it comes with sometimes challenges when you're looking for reduced rates and things of that nature, because it does open it up to setting a precedent for all organizations. Now, that being said, and that me also saying that I'm a big fan. One of the things that I proposed, as opposed to us passing a resolution that's going to change the way other organizations approach us for fees and ice times, is that I think there's a solution here that that's going to allow us to support you in a way that's not going to change kind of our procedures moving forward. So what I've spoken to my council colleagues and suggested, as opposed to passing the bylaw to reduce it by $44 for the 2 hours, is that we would actually sponsor you, not as a council, not as a township, but personally for an hour of ice time, which is actually going to give you more than what you're looking for at this point. But it's also going to kind of not set the expectation that every team and every organization is going to come look for reduced rates. So 100%, this is something I'm passionate for you guys for, and going on to the nationals. So I think between us personally, I think I'll let my council colleagues speak, but I think there'd be enough appetite for us to pony up, but you guys do enough fundraising on your own that we can pony up some dollars to get you a 3-hour of ice time as opposed to just a reduced rate.
That's further, Deputy Mayor Densham.
Yeah, happy to pitch in. Congratulations, and thanks for the idea of passing the hat. I'm definitely in.
Yeah, same here. Congratulations.
What was brought in?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I know this here is like a lot of sports teams and stuff, and as a municipality, we cannot, but this here is we're looking at some of our youth that are actually representing us at a national level and help you out on the financial side. So, Madam Clerk, do you need a rectified
Yes, so
motion?
we, through the chair, we have to carry.
So in front of everybody here, I'm going to suggest we defeat the motion that's on the table. And that we are telling you right now that we are going to amongst themselves come up with money to provide to you for the ice time for that. And if not, we will give you our. Yeah.
So, like I said before we leave, so I'm prepared to defeat it if that's what, so the motion, Madam Clerk, you can, read it and then
Okay.
I will, yeah.
That the Council of the Township of North Stormont approves a reduced ice time rate of $100 per hour to the national broomball teams named the Warriors and East Thunder, was moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, second by Councillor Bajelli.
So I guess I'll start by saying any one in favor? See none, option to defer. Or defeat, sorry. Yeah, not defer because to defeat, sorry.
We're opposed.
Motion is carried.
So
It's a loss for a win.
Sorry, the defeat is carried is what I'm getting at. Perfect. So if you want to venture out to, because I know you do have practice, what I can do is I'll arrange with council and is Marcel a safe bet for me to no? Because I know, so you want me to stop, so Danielle, you'll be my point of contact and I'll make sure to stop to him.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you're more than well. I know you would love to stay because this is very exciting, but you can go.
Bringing so much championship.
Yeah.
yeah.
Moving on to our transfer from reserves request. Yeah, maybe we'll just wait 2 seconds.
Totally open ended, no.
I got the text in.
Yeah.
$57 each.
All right.
Perfect. So moving on to item 9.2 in regards to transfer from reserves request. Madam Clerk.
That the Council of the Township of North Stormont approves the transfer from the ARC donation reserve to pay for the Universe training session at a maximum of $700. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Bajelli.
I don't think I have to go to Kim to explain this. It's so all in favor of the motion is carried. Moving on to item 9.3 in regards to the Taste Fest 2025.
The Council of the Township of North Stormont approves Taste Fest to be held on September 6, 2025 in Moose Creek, and the application of a special occasions permit from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, AGCO, was moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, second by Councillor Bajelli.
So before the request came to the township, what we're looking at is to pass for the alcohol and gaming permit that they're requesting that we have to sanction, but the wording in the agenda was put that it was towards operational capital. That they are just sent a letter or an email today where they're speculating that it solely support the capital budget, and they wanted that worded properly into the agenda. So the motion as it reads, all in favor. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. So I feel like looking back into last term, we've funded this filter at least once before, and what happens is the money goes in and then it ends up getting repurposed for something else. I think the last time it ended up painting the pool instead of looking after the filter, and now it's not available for the filter. So I don't know whether, Kim, as the treasurer, whether or not you have any thoughts on how we designate funds so that, you know, that when we kind of approve something for a specific intention, that it actually gets spent for that. Because this is an important thing. I know that pool filter is very old. It could go anytime, and that was the story 4 years ago as well. So any comments?
Through the chair, yes, a couple of years ago, they did, Moose Creek Recreation Pool Committee did come forward and ask the funds that were put in reserve for the filter, for the sandblasting and the painting of the pool. It was approved, but therefore depleted the funds that we had in reserve for the filter. However, they do have funds in reserve right now. If the filter would need to go, they would have funds to purchase a new filter. There's another fundraiser that's going to capital. This is what we received from them as far as opinion. These are fundraising done for the capital. A filter is a capital project / operational. It's like changing a filter for a furnace, but we're talking a bigger item than a filter for a furnace, but it's part of maintenance, it's part of operational. But there's a capital lifespan on a filter, which falls in the capital category. So right now there's just a reserve of $10,000 for the filter. We didn't add any more reserves since that point. The $10,000 is still sitting there, and we haven't put any more money towards the filter. That's conjunction because they used the reserve of $30,000 that we had for the filter to do another task. Now they'll have to come up with that $20,000 that they use of funds of reserve for the filter to compensate the difference.
No, I support the concept, and the filter is going to be needed when it goes. Again, like I say, I'm actually thankful that the filter hasn't died, so we haven't had to spend money on it. But at the same time, once we get it in there, we want to be sure that, you know, if we're approving something and publicly stating it, that in fact the funds end up going to what people believe they're supporting when they're taking part in these activities. But I think it's a great initiative, and look forward to it. Thank you.
Through the chair, I did receive the estimate with the request for the SOP, and it was for actually a filter. And I did state in the email that funds were used previously that was in reserve for filters. Therefore, this money's got to be reduced from the amount of what they need. So they're aware that they use the funding for something else. Therefore, they got compensate the difference.
So it's basically gives direction on, but what we're passing here today has nothing to do with the specific filter. It's basically for them to get allocation or to get approval under council's authority to get their permit. And it's all like as our rec director mentioned, the filter could fall into a capital expenditure, which is what so it's going in the right direction, I think, and I look forward to attending, and which could be a nice event for the community of Moose Creek. So with that said, all in favor of accepting, motion is carried. Moving on to another big item, pedestrian bridge funding for Chrysler.
That the council of the Township of North Stormont supports applying to the Active Transportation Fund for the construction of a new pedestrian bridge in Chrysler. And further, the council of the Township of North Stormont commits to the municipal portion of the grant at 40% of the total cost of the project, estimated at approximately $366,000. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, second by Deputy Mayor Densham.
Thank you. So before I go to questions, I will take the lead on this. So everybody knows, so the old New York Central Railway runs through Chrysler right by the Home Hardware. And there's been talk for many years now in regards to having a pedestrian bridge put on there. So the work has been started now, I'd say a year ago, working with agencies that build bridges. We've met with them over at the at the OGRA conference and to get the ball rolling. The reason this is brought up tonight is there's funding available for 60%. And so we started getting more and more prices, inquiries. So as I'm sure everybody that read the report, it kind of took me back when I started looking at some of the numbers that were brought forward. And what we have in front of us here is where we would be responsible for 40% of this grant. If we don't get the funding, we fall back. We're not hooked on this. So right now it's pending getting the funding. The estimate that was firstly brought forward, which had to be done at tonight's meeting, and the information that we had to be able to apply for this grant. So the 366, which I thought was very high, through Craig, we've contacted the company that's making the bridge to kind of identify why the rates, the cost was so elevated for not the bridge itself, but more for the installation. So they had a list that was submitted where all the stuff, so embankments was one of them. So you need to support a bridge. In our case, we have the old railway bed embankments that are already there that we approved engineering to kind of get it to. So after the discussions with Algonquin Bridge, it was brought back that, okay, they apologized. They had there's a topographical plan that was prepared. They had all the information, but he just kind of put a general price on it. So it went from I believe it's 566 or 5 something, down to now they're looking more at 200 for the setup of installing the bridge. The cost of the bridge, I believe, is 366. So our 40% is now gonna be drastically reduced, which now is starting to fall in line where, okay, now it's I'm listening to see where we go with this. Pierre, I think, can you correct me if I'm wrong? I believe we also reached out to the Indigenous group, I believe the Mohawks, for their support. Maybe you can add a little bit to that.
Yes, through the chair, we did reach out to Kwasasni for a letter of support on behalf of using their territory. And then furthermore, we'll be looking at other ways to raise funds for that, either through sponsorship, to businesses, to reduce the cost of municipality towards this project. So it started with, usually it was the price of bridge times 1.5, which says that was for the service and installing the bridge, unloading, cranes, labor and all that. To once you figure out that we do have all this already in place, it went down to 200,000. So if you had the project at 566, 60%, and having maybe the letter of support could give us an extra 10%.
From the
Yes, but we're gonna be conservative, and we're gonna calculate our 60% and 40. And if we're fortunate enough, we get the 10% additional, well, there'd be a less of a cost to the municipality, but we'll stick to the format of 60-40, which will be 60% funding and 40% will be subsidized by the municipality and fundraising and sponsors.
So to add further to that, so the fact that we still need funding, as I've been on council now 10 years, so when the EDP windmills project came along, they had put money on the table for us to be willing host to the project. The council, the term of council at the time voted against it. So when the provincial government brought it back, so they removed the money that was on the table. When it was brought back, there was a negotiation of this community fund that is present today that we get of 300,000 that is indexed, so it's slightly growing, but and in that agreement, we had a 10% going to our rec, which is the 30,000 that we actually talked about at budget for services and stuff from our rec groups. The other 270 was built towards infrastructure. And my view, I still feel the same way as I did back then. It was firstly brought forward as free money. At the time, the Public Works Department needed, so they took the first stab at this money, and then it just evolved. It became Public Works money to buy our aggregates or fill the salt shed. So I feel that which is more of an operational, this money is basically an agreement that was a community fund. So we have in this process for the bridge, we have till 2030. So it's not something where it has to be. So my view on this is I would like to still not lose the opportunity to get this funding. I'll maybe just make the mention that the people that are in the hall today are very strong supporters that I think will form a very nice committee to go and get corporate sponsorship, to go and get community donations to work at the, and they're still smiling, so that's good. No, so I think that if we can work towards, and that's again my view, I'll get your take on it, but if we can look towards that 270 to slide back into a community, I call it the slush fund. Right now, we've been very successful on attaining grants, but every time we get a grant, there's a small portion that we have to pay. So, and that's, some are smaller, some are bigger. Every time, if I can take $100,000, it's only costing me 20, I'll do that all day long. So that's what I'm looking at, is this slush fund, to bring it back where it's more based on community. And we have 6 of them. So there's lots of opportunities there, but it's just that if you can get something, you get a grant for 100, you need 20. This would be a kind of fund that would be, and the operational, I still view if the windmills did not come, we would not have that money and we would still have to operate and build our roads and buy our aggregates. And so I'll take now comments from the rest of council, but it's something that I think it's now more in line to work with. We can get a good committee, and I think that we can minimize this amount. So if we go to 230 right now, and if we get another 10%, we're down where I think now it's manageable to expectations from the public. So I'll start with Councillor Bajelli.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, do we know, is the active transportation fund, is it stackable with other funding?
I'm not sure.
That would be something I'd really like to explore, where we're getting other levels. There are certain ones you can explore. Where my mind always went on this historically was through Canada Heritage and trying to tap into the Ottawa, New York line. That there have been funds spent in the past on different projects across Canada where they are preserving. This is it actually is a very significant part of Canadian history that we could actually preserve through little things they may require, like little plaques on it along the way. I have no problem doing that and pointing out the history of the bridge. But if there's an opportunity to get a federal partner in on this as well as a stackable grant, I think we're well on our way to making this a reality.
Deputy Mayor Lyncham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I agree with many of your comments. Again, it's amazing what happens when a community pulls themselves together, and when we look at you even last term, you were sharing the idea of the bridge going across, and I think it would be a wonderful addition to the community. In terms of funding, though, that I guess is where the hesitation is. We've just been through budget. And as we pointed out, as I pointed out last time, when we were talking about budget, the recreational spending, and I know we're not talking about rec groups, but the investigation used to be about $450,000 per year. In the last 2 years, it's gone up to $800,000 of taxpayer money. It's actually much higher than that, but this is of taxpayer money that's gone into that. And likewise, the arena has gone in as well. And, you know, the $366,000 of taxpayer money to a 10% tax increase. So that's again, I have to keep we have to keep looking at the money. I know people say if the municipality will pay for it, it's not the municipality that's paying for it. It is the ratepayer ultimately. And I agree with the fact that the EDP money that's been coming in is found money, but we've been using that to offset taxation. So regardless of where it's spent, ultimately, if we use it for something else, I believe it's going to affect taxation. So if we can find another stackable grant, that would be my preference. Again, and I know how good Chrysler is at raising money. So I don't know whether or not that's another way as well, because The way I kind of have started to say to myself, given the fact that we've increased our tax levy on recreation related stuff, is I've started to break it down in my mind as two categories of people who are paying money towards recreational assets. Those who will use it and those who won't use it. So ultimately, when we do it through taxation and the municipality pays for it, both the people who will use it and the people who won't use it will be paying for it. And we have to ask ourselves at some point, where is it? Who are we putting too much of a burden on the people who won't use it to ask them to continue to pay for additional stuff that they won't use? The people who will use it, I'm sure they're perfectly happy to have their tax dollars to go into it. And so I don't think we'll get any arguments from the people who will use it. But that's where it comes down to. Where's that the rest of the portion should be paid for? Should it be paid by the people who will never use it and maybe aren't able to use it? Given the fact that they are now paying almost twice as much towards recreational activity that they have as little as 3 years ago. And so that's my only concern is I would love to see this go through, but I would love to see if we can't find a way to fund the remaining dollars through some other sort of grant or corporate sponsorship or something like that. That's my thinking.
For related, so you're looking for approval, Pierre, to submit an application for funding, and you're looking for us to recognize that there would be a municipal commitment of matching maybe 40-30. Is there, and I think you said the ability to use the funds is up until 2030 potentially? I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way to apply for the grant and to continue seeking other ways to offset this? To receive permission to apply, but not necessarily to accept and proceed until we sort out some of the other stuff?
Well, like I mentioned, so proceeding is gonna be on our terms up to, so we're tied to up to 2030. So if we feel that we want to push it off and put money aside, my feel is to comments with that, by having the bridge, by increasing your trail, you're enhancing your community. By enhancing your community, there's 250 houses coming in the next few years in the subdivision. By getting that, we're increasing our tax base by $1,200 per house per year. So everything is a big wheel that keeps on turning. Pierre is meeting with, and that's another factor, maybe like as getting additional funding, the trail, and thanks to the trail committee where there is gentlemen sitting here that, so they extended it past to where our lagoons are. They now are connecting with St. Albert, which is the Prescott Russell. So now we're applying, our application looks even now greater because we're tying ourselves to the Prescott Russell network, trail network. It's now becoming more appealing for when we are applying the grant. So I think there's a lot of great avenues. And before I go, so my take on this is with respect to, so we see 366, which I would rather leave it there because what the cost is the cost. I'd rather get this approved, but it's not the 366. So it was 566 was the installation. And now we're being told that from what they reassessed, if they would have done that in the first place, they're saying it's not 566, it's 200. So right there's a big drop from that 366. Now we are 40-60, so the funding also gets reduced and our commitment gets reduced. So now we're down to closer to the 230. And if we can get an extra 10% from, so I think if we get down where we're looking at 200 over a period of time where we can get a committee and start working on, you get a few corporate sponsorship can take care of. So I think that we're going to be very minimal amount that would be and I'll swear to my time, I will put the time in to make sure that this these people are great coming forward and supporting this venture. So Allison.
There's a funding opportunity through the Community Sport Recreation Infrastructure Fund that I was looking into for my day job. But it's to build, you can get up to 10 million to build transformative community sport recreation infrastructure, specifically assets that do not currently exist. So I felt like maybe there's an opportunity to, like someone mentioned, maybe it's Adrian, Councilor Bergelli, that you could stack some of these grants. Like, I definitely think this would be amazing, and cycling is coming up big as a tourism thing. I think there'll be investments available for us to take advantage of, for the communities to take advantage of around cycling, connection to Prescott Russell, Ottawa, Montreal, it's a whole thing. So I think there's gonna be opportunities, and I believe in your vision that you've set out and described, and I think the community will be able to do it. It's just, I also understand what Deputy Mayor Densham is saying. The number is big, and we have a lot of priorities coming on our tax base over the next few years. I don't want to talk about global politics right now, but tying up money is a little stressful. So I'd be willing to support it. Just on the understanding that we all know we're going to be looking for money to offset that cost to the taxpayer, because we can't necessarily absorb that right now or ask others to absorb it. So more comments than questions.
So maybe I see Councillor Bergelli was with the broom ball in the arena. Would you not see like Councillor Bergelli on the green? So I'll go to Kim if you want to add
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just looking online and that grant is stackable up to 100%. The only one you can't use for it is the CCBF, which is the former gas tax.
So here's the deal. I like I say, I sometimes feel like a grumpy old man when I sit here and I'm pinching every penny and stuff like that, but I'm doing it for the taxpayer, right? And making sure that we're not overburdening those. We have 8% of people who can't pay their taxes right now, and it puts more burden. So I'm prepared to support it, but I'm going to ask our groups, our staff, and the public to continue to look for ways that we can stack on top of this and keep the tax burden down. Like I say, I would love to see this added. But again, the other thing I didn't mention is we haven't put much money in our reserves for many of the capital assets that we have, and we have roofs that need to be repaired in some of the other community centers, and they're only getting older. So like I say, my ask is that if we support this, that we'll do everything in our power to try to find a way to not overburden your neighbors, the ratepayers. Thank you.
comment noted. And if I can add in regards to, you mentioned the roofs to community center and stuff. So I would, tonight is not for specific to that, but again, reviewing the 270, like the 90% of infrastructure and maybe aligning something that would, because again, infrastructure falls into roof or a furnace for all that is unexpected. So this is the type of, if you're getting, and nothing against our roads, but if you're getting aggregate, that's part of our operational budget, and we should be supplying you the money to be able to maintain your road. So that part I don't feel should be coming from a community fund that was built for something I think that could have been positioned differently and perceived to enhance our community and then to have that discussion moving forward. So any further questions?
Yeah, through the chair, just, yes, it came after budget, but this grant came out that we weren't aware. So that kind of threw a curve in everything that was planned, because we were planning to look into this after the Trillium grant in February. That would have lots of time to, but this grant just showed up since the deadline is February 26th. So that's why we brought it forward, is in order to fill up the grant, we need this backup or the support from the municipality. But like Mr. Mayor said, we got lots of time to fill up this grant. It might take 6 or 8 months before, or even a year before we get an answer on funding. So it gives us a chance to look at other partnership or other funding that'll match this. But I don't expect having an answer between 6 or 8 months out of this funding. So it gives us lots of time to look at and doing fundraising and looking where we can pick up that void.
And again, on the money that for the install and stuff that was proposed or given to us, we also have the in-kind services that often our roads department will help with, our public works. So again, there's minimal areas where possibly can be to offset some of that cost as well. So, okay, so everybody spoke their mind, so I'll put it on the table, so all in favor, and again, these numbers are just to get the application in, so they're not tied to, that number's not tied to what the true cost is gonna be, but I would like to leave it at that, so I'll put on the table, all in favor of the motion. And motion is carried. Moving on to waste collection services for a tender.
The Council of the Township of North Stormont receives this report on tender RFT PW-001-2025 waste collection service and awards the tender to Environmental 360 Solutions Limited at the amount of $378,702 plus tax per year starting in 2025. Moved by Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor Valley.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Dinch.
Just a quick question. Is the price locked in for 5 years? Is it indexed to over 5 years or?
It's index, CPI.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you.
I'll be reaching out to you gentlemen and we'll have a little meeting.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Kim.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to give some light to council, the 2025 budget for these services is actually 368, so it is coming very close to what we already budgeted for, so it's not an unreasonable amount.
And in that, I'm not sure if our Public Works or Kim, is that looking at, like, are we looking at, if we move ahead, are we dispersing both of our trucks and selling our assets, or what's the plan there?
Yes, that's a good option. I do have a company interested in our 22 unit that we use now. There will most likely be discussion, as in we do support recreation groups or like Taste Fest, whatever, to collect garbage. Same as yard waste. We use the truck for that. Admiral Fair. We'll have to look at the value of revenue compared to what council might want to provide a extra service to the community events and stuff. But I do have I have a party of interest. I don't have a dollar value. I have a party of interest to buy the truck that we use now, the new truck.
And what's the dollar value? Like, is it something where we're getting nothing worth?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't have a purchase price as such right now. There is a little twist here. The truck has a current value of 137,000 because it's through an Infrastructure Ontario loan. That loan is coming due in 2027, and I think it's March of 2027. So whatever funds we collect, we will just keep in like a reserve and pay those funds off, and then the rest will be profit. I don't have a dollar amount of or potential sale. We just have someone who is of interest right now, so I can't comment.
And in regards to the remarks you made on supporting our fairs or supporting our activities, would that second unit, how old is the
To the mayor, the second year is 2016.
question from? So, go ahead.
Actually, no, I just wanted to appreciate the comment that you made about the fact that it's covered under budget. And I think sometimes we actually put that in the report, do we not? That this is covered by, but I know we do that in some of the other committees that I sit on. It would be wonderful because then it's just saying, oh, we've already planned for it. Fantastic, easy to approve.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we, the Public Works Department did some rough estimates of the current costs that they were looking at. So we looked at that sort of actuals, and then I looked at the budget today because it hasn't been approved yet. But that's where it's coming in roughly. So that's why it's not part of the report right now.
Any other question? Anything you want to add, Blake, as far as, I know you're the ones that in the dealings and working. So what's your thought on the overall?
I believe this is a good step forward. We have had some problems with full-time employees. But with losing the recycling program January 1st, we basically, we always had to have a backup unit to keep things going. So, and we had with recycling, we had a backup part-time for the garbage situation where now it's looks like it's more feasible and be more appreciated by the public works operators that don't have to fill in a situation where we don't have any actual, like a two-man operation with recycling garbage. We only have the one because it was recycling taken over by the province. So feasible wise, I think it's we're not going to lose on the deal. It'll be up to council on the rest of the stuff and the money we get off the new truck, and that will be coming forward. But we have to have the direction from council to say what, if we want to go ahead and contract it out, then we can proceed with the equipment sales and things like that.
Councilor Jelly.
So thank you for this report. I'm supportive of it. A lot of municipalities across the province, across the country really are moving towards privatized waste collection. Especially the liabilities for maintenance costs, and if things do go wrong on these vehicles, the cost can be astronomical. I don't think we're in any rush or need to go out and fire sale or liquidate the vehicles that we do have. Clearly, if the newer one has the value, that is the one that you'd want to move at this point. But that being said, I think for the difference, based on the numbers from the treasurer, is that it's an additional cost of about 10,000 to go this way at this point. But with the issues with retention of staff, with just all the associated costs that go along with that HR side, I think it's a no-brainer at this point. It doesn't affect the service standards. The service standards, that becomes a problem of the private company to make sure that collection is happening no matter what. We also know that we will be taking on the liability for the complaints that would be outside of our hands. So if it's not getting collected in time, we're going to be getting the calls about it. We can't be just calling up our own department. We've got to, in that sense, we kind of have to mitigate. We are going to be dealing with that already, and we're already seeing it as far as recycling goes. But I agree that this is it's a no-brainer as far as a move that we need to do.
Agreed. No further questions. Seeing none, are we in favor of moving forward? Motion is carried. Moving on to item 9.6, the land purchase for the Moose Creek Lagoon.
The Council of the Township of North Stormont accepts and approves the purchase of plus or minus 22 acres from lands described as concession 7, part lot 21, registered plan 52R 4550, part 3, part 1, registered plan 52R 4826, parts 8, 9, parts 3 and 4, former Township of Roxborough, Township of North Stormont, for the possibility of installing a new lagoon cell in the village of Moose Creek for an increase in wastewater allocations to permit more development. And further, Council of the Township of North Stormont approves using water and sewer reserves of $5,000 per acre to purchase property for a total estimated cost of $110,000. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councilor McDonald.
Thank you. So before I go to question, I'd like to start by thanking our Public Works Director. So this has been something that Blake has gone out, met with. So basically we're talking to the landowners that around the Moose Creek Lagoon. So it was a no-brainer. We knew who the players were, but I appreciate the work and the time. Some was during the Christmas holidays, but and seeing that $5,000 an acre is again to Blake's negotiation, talking. He knows the people, meeting the people, and I appreciate the work that you've done. So I'll take questions from council. See none, I think it's go ahead, Councilor McDonald.
Cognizant of the time and the weather and all these things. I just can't help but notice that property is also where we have recreational trail. What is the potential impact to the trail?
That was a main point in negotiation that we whenever we have the final design that the trail will be maintained in a forest area outside of our service area.
So it'll be maintained with a buffer of some kind, and people can
Yeah.
still enjoy it. Slope, and I was also concerned about potential for natural hazard setbacks and things like that. So it sounds like two birds with one stone if you're gonna keep the trail open.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think the trail will actually follow kind of adjacent to the Moose Creek, which I think will be more appealing than just cutting across the wood. So that was kind of work where we're gonna do something that will be more, I think, add value to that trail. And we're gonna tire the needed space for the lagoon closer to the west part of it. So I think the plan is in place, and it's just following with the funding that we got. Move the environmental assessment done now to at least see moving, because for so long it stayed stagnant. We're waiting on progress. So this is good to see. So with that, pardon? Yeah, so with that, the motion was read. Are we all in favor of moving forward? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to reporting under OREG 284-09.
The Council of the Township of North Stormont receives report FIN 01-2024-2025 regarding reporting under Ontario Regulation 284-09 for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, second by Deputy Mayor Dencham.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to the delegated authority bylaws.
That the Council of the Township of North Stormont receives this key information report from the Deputy Clerk on delegated authority bylaws for information purposes. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Bajelli.
Any questions? Moving on to our municipal bylaws, 10.106-2025 in regards to our fees and charges.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 06-2025 being a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw number 29-2024 to establish fees and charges for licenses, permits, certificates, and various municipal services be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 28th day of January 2025. Moved by Deputy Mayor Dencham, second by Councillor McDonald.
Any that fee and charges keeps coming back, so favor. Motion is carried. Now moving to 07-2025 in regards to our 2025 operating and capital budget.
Be resolved that bylaw number 07-2025 being a bylaw of the 2025 capital budgets in 803 be read for second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 28th day of January 2025. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, second by Deputy Mayor Dencham.
Thank you. So I'd like to, I gave credit to Blake. I got to give it to Kim and staff. So I think the work that was put through this, I believe that in my 10 years on council, this is the earliest we've passed a budget being in February. So I think it gives the opportunity to go out to tender quicker, and there's good value to that. So Kim, did you want to add anything particular, or that you want to on a final say?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I think it went really well. I'm happy. The promise to council was to have it to you by Christmas and to have it passed in January so that the tendering process could move forward. So I'm very pleased. And I think it went well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? So those listening or those that are in the gallery, so we did come in at 4.98.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is 4.98. The county's portion has been changed to 4.74 because there was a change in one of the property classes. I believe that was passed last night or yesterday.
Yeah.
And then the school board remained the same. So the overall impact of the municipal levy to residential taxpayers is $19 per 100,000 worth of assessment. If you take the total tax rate, it equates to about $50 per 100,000 for the total impact to the ratepayer. So
Thank you. Motion's on the table. All in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to our item 08. Our bylaw 08-2025 in regards to water and wastewater rates.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 08-2025 being a bylaw to impose fees or charges for the supply of water and sewer services be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 28th day of January 2025. Moved by Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor Bajelli.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Moving to item 09.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 09-2025 being a bylaw to provide an interim tax levy for the township of North Stormont be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 28th day of January 2025. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, second by Councilor Bajelli.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Item 11, in regards to our correspondence, any comments in regards to our correspondence? I guess, did you want to read the motion? Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Be it resolved that the correspondence as listed as items 11.1 to 11.7 on the agenda be received. Moved by Councilor McDonald, second by Deputy Mayor Densham.
You. All in favor of receiving the correspondence? Motion is carried. There's no motion or notices, petitions, so moving on to new business, so appointment of council to committees of adjustment.
That the Council of the Township of North Stormont appoint the following members of council to the Committee of Adjustment for the 2025 calendar year. Francois Landry, Adrian Bajelli, Allison McDonald. Moved by Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor Bajelli.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. For schedules of our upcoming meetings, so we do have a Committee of Adjustment meeting on January 31st, 2025 at 8:30 in the morning. We have we have a February 20th, we have our Fire Service Committee meeting at 6:30. Our only regular council meeting of February, which will be held on February 25th at 6 p.m., as well as our meeting in March, regular council meeting, March 11th, again at 6 p.m. Is there any closing remarks from members of council? Seeing none, so I guess we will go into closed session.
Be it resolved that this meeting adjourned to a closed session for the following reasons. As per section 239, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councilor McDonald.
All in favor? Motion is carried, so we'll take 5 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute right. Oh, so before we close down, so the comment, we are going into close. When we do come out of close, we have to reopen to then ratify our regular council meeting. Because we're streaming or we're zooming, I will not keep so we will not go back into Zoom. The doors will be open once we're finished close to come back into the meeting and then close it again. So we will not reopening the Zoom and tying it. So we're good. Thank you very much.